Hello, my friends. It's Nick, the ASMR nerd. And today I'm very excited for a couple of reasons. One is that I'm going to get to drink some, hopefully, delicious craft beers. But the second reason is that this is our very first Patrons Pick / Members Choice video. You see, this video was chosen by supporters of this channel who have signed up for my Patreon or my YouTube memberships at the Foos Row or higher tier. I've got 3 tiers. There's Foos Row, and there's Foos Row Da. And one of the perks for the Foos Row and above is to vote in a monthly poll where I give a few, different options, and then those supporters get to choose the topic of an upcoming video. And this is that video, the first such video. If that sounds fun to you or like something you would like to do, have some say in the kind of content that you see on this channel, those links are down below in the video description. You can check them out and see what other fun perks you get with your support. One such perk is having a credit in every video. Every tier gets this, and you will see the names of our amazing supporters at the end of this video. But there's other fun perks too, so go check it out if you like what I do here, would like to support what I do here, and would potentially like to have a say in future videos like this one. And of course, a huge thank you to all our wonderful YouTube members and patrons, all our incredible supporters here. I appreciate you so very much. So today's video is going to be a craft beer tasting, and I've done a few of these on the channel in the past, but it's been a very long time. It's been years. I don't know how many, but years. And I would say I fairly frequently get requests to do another one of these. So it's funny because I like drinking beer, and it shouldn't take that much to get me to drink it in a video, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened for a long time. So for the rest of you who've been requesting one of these, I hope you enjoy this as well. And now, on the topic of drinking beer, I always like to put a little disclaimer in front of these videos because I really enjoy drinking craft beer in moderation. And I want to put it out there, especially for potentially younger viewers of this channel or for more impressionable viewers or what have you, that, drinking in moderation can be fine, can be quite enjoyable, especially when you have such an incredible diversity of flavors and styles and aesthetics like you do in the craft beer world these days. There's so many options, so many interesting things to try, but that is, of course, in moderation. And we are learning more and more these days that there is no safe amount of alcohol to drink. Recently here in Canada, where I live, new guidelines were passed saying, really, you shouldn't have more than like 2 beers a week if you want to have negligible health impacts. So that's just something to bear in mind, and I do try to stick to that guideline. I generally succeed, I think. I will typically have a beer with a stream where I stream on twitch.tv / the ASMR nerd. We have a tradition of opening up a beer, pouring it out, so you guys get to hear it. Of course, you'll get to hear that here in this video as well. So usually that's my 1 or 2 beers a week, depending on how many times I stream in a week. That's about it. Tonight, of course, I'm going to be trying out 3 in one go. So I'm blowing my budget here. tonight, but every once in a while, so be it. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So, there's no rush to get to drinking if you're especially, younger and underage and that kind of thing. Drinking in moderation when you're of age can be quite enjoyable, but, wait till you get there and ensure that you use your good judgment. All right, that was my little disclaimer. So the beers that I've picked here today, I picked for a couple of reasons. One, because I wanted beers that would all be kind of different, and these are all very different brews. And two, I picked them because they were pretty. I often actually, when I go to the liquor store and look at the wall of craft brews to pick from, I often pick based on how pretty the can is or the bottle is. They're mostly cans now, truth be told. All three here today are cans. But, sometimes you just got to make a choice based on how something looks, how it speaks to you, that aesthetic pop that it has. If it kind of stands out on the wall of cans, and sometimes you pick something that looks really nice. It doesn't taste so nice, but yeah, you learn while you're at it, right? But, it's nice when you can pick something that looks really nice and have assurances that it's going to be awesome, right? Well, you're in luck because that's the case with this video's sponsor, Into the AM. Into the AM are sellers of elevated, everyday apparel. That's their slogan, their tagline. What it means is that they make clothing, especially graphic tees like the one you see me wearing here. Clothing that looks great, like it's got that eye-catching element. Like I was saying, you're one of those cans of beer on the liquor store shelf. You want to stand out from the crowd. Boom, Into the AM has you covered. But not only do they look great, they also deliver where it matters in terms of comfort, in terms of quality, in terms of wearability, and use, just care. These t-shirts, super duper comfy. They've got a bit of stretchiness to them. They're super soft. They are fitted in such a way that I think personally looks really nice, feels really nice. I wear these things all the time, A, because I think they look awesome, but B, because they're just super comfortable. And they're easy to care for. They're pre-shrunk, so you can just chuck them in the washing machine, chuck them in the dryer. You don't have to worry about anything, separating them out or whatever, hanging them to dry. Looks awesome, feels awesome, easy to care for. What more could you ask for? Oh wait, inexpensive, good value? Ah yes. Guess what? Right now, Into the AM has a crazy sale on. If you're watching this video when it comes out, you probably have a couple of days left to go get in on that action. They have graphic tees for $5, you guys, as little as $5. And using my link down at the top of the video description, you can save an additional 10% on top of the already crazy savings that Into the AM is giving you. And that 10% covers your entire order, whether it's graphic tees like this one, whether it's hoodies, whether it's shorts, joggers, underwear, you name it, they got it. And it's 10% off using my link down at the top of the video description. They're getting new designs in all the time, all kinds of beautiful stuff. This is one of their freshest ones they got, brand new. Love the look of it. It's got this real kind of like trippy nature vibe to it. It's very West Coast, and I really like that. One of the beers, actually, that I'm trying in tonight's video has an aesthetic that reminds me a little bit of this. The can looks kind of, sort of, you'll see what I mean. It's got that natural look to it anyway. New designs in all the time. I'm sure you will find something you love over there. So head on over to Into the AM using the link down at the top of the video description and save 10% off your entire order and support myself and this channel while you're at it. Thanks for checking it out if you do, and thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring today's video. So with that said, it's definitely time to get to the beers. I'm getting thirsty here. All this talking, it's working up a thirst. So let's get to it. Now, like I said, I've got 3 beers here, and actually it's starting to get a little condensation-y, which I hadn't really planned for. I should have brought a towel or something, paper towel, but I'll just wipe them off on this very comfortable absorbent shirt from Into the AM. And we're going to start, we're going to go from light to dark, and from light on the alcohol to heavier on the alcohol. All these beers are from my localish area, either here on Vancouver Island, where I live, or from the greater Vancouver area in the lower mainland of British Columbia, Canada. We have a huge craft brewing scene in this part of the world, and we are just so spoiled by how many options we have out there. I can go to the liquor store and get a different beer each time. Like, never have to have the same beer again, like twice probably, if I really wanted to. Some beers I really like, so of course I do have them more than once, but my favorite thing about craft beer is trying new things, is the variety. So I'm always looking for something new, something exciting, something different. So the first beer of the night is this one right here. This is the Mystic Haze. Mystic Haze Pale Ale from Vancouver Island Brewing. And this is the one that I thought looked a bit like the shirt, kind of. It's got bright colors. Obviously, the style is a bit different, but like, it's got some of those colors in it, I think there's some similarity there. I'm colorblind. Cut me some slack. I can actually turn off this light here and bring this a little closer for you to see, because I think if I bring it right now, that's not so bad. It's a little blown out though. I'll change the lighting in just a second. But this spoke to me because it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the key feature you might notice here is the wolf. There's a couple of wolves on here. These are sea wolves. Sea wolves, which are a unique subspecies of wolf found here on Vancouver Island, and also over on the sort of Sunshine Coast, Great Bear Rainforest region on the mainland. And I just really loved this art on the can. It is such a gorgeous representation of what it looks like around here. Really, like, I can say that I've seen summer evenings that look, very much like this, where you've got the layers of the landscape, the layers of islands and mountains going into the distance, disappearing into the haze, the mystic haze, and this beautiful, beautiful sky. So I really liked the aesthetic of this can. Here, let me just boop and see if that maybe makes it a little easier for you to see. I don't know. I think you can see the colors better that way. Yeah, it's not quite so blown out. But isn't it gorgeous? So Vancouver Island Brewing has been here in Victoria, British Columbia for, gosh darn, must be close on 40 years now. Maybe it has been. They were one of the original craft breweries here on on southern Vancouver Island. And for a long time, they were known for their, sort of high quality, reliably good craft brews. Then eventually they got bought out. This was, I don't know, maybe a decade ago now. Just trying to see if it says who owns them now. It doesn't, but they were bought out by one of the big, brewing conglomerates, or it might have been Molson or something like that. But, and at that point, a lot of people thought their product kind of took a nosedive for a while. But seems like they've found their way again. I don't know if they've just been given more sort of leeway to do what they want, or if they got new head brewmaster in there, or I'm not sure. But it seems like they've been putting out more interesting things for the last couple of years, more variety, and the quality seems to have increased again. So anyway, this is, of course, a pale ale. A pale ale. A pale ale is fun to say for starters, but it is an ale made with pale malts, and usually they are kind of like the little cousin or little sibling of an India Pale Ale, an IPA. You might be familiar with that style. IPAs tend to be very bold, very hoppy, often a little on the bitter side, although that's quite variable these days, and a little heavier on the alcohol. The pale ale is kind of the light version of all that stuff, typically, anyway. And usually not quite so hop forward, usually a little bit more balanced, although, again, it really varies. I mean, like, rules are made to be broken in the brewing space these days, right? So you can find exceptions to any rule, but generally speaking, just a little more balanced, a little lighter in the alcohol, a little lighter on the hops, and some might say a little more sessionable, something you could drink more of in one sitting. There is some writing on here, which actually talks a little bit about the beer and also about the sea wolves. So let's read it. Mystic Haze Pale Ale. Our coastal sea wolves are anything but ordinary. Their calming, captivating presence is shrouded in mystique. This hazy pale ale channels their energy into a sessionable, there's that word, intensely juicy, hop-forward ale. So maybe this will be a little more heavily hopped than I expect. It's perfect for sharing with your pack. 4.5% alcohol by volume, so not terribly strong. That's on the light side for alcohol content, and seems like a good place to start tonight. So I'm just going to crack this open here. You can smell the hops already. I got a whiff of citrusy hops right as soon as I cracked it open. Definitely citrusy. All right, let's got my tulip glasses here, which do hilarious things to my face when I put them in front like this. Wow. I've got one for each of the 3 beers here. We're using glasses tonight. We're doing this fancy, you guys. All right, so let's pour it out and enjoy the fizz. Listen to that froth. So it pours a bright gold, but it definitely ends up hazy in the glass, which makes sense. They do call it a mystic haze, although it doesn't specify that it's a hazy pale ale, which is its own kind of thing. But clearly it's unfiltered. We do have haziness here. And very fruity. We've got a pretty rapidly receding foam here. They call this the head at the top of the beer, the foaminess. And it's got a good frothiness to it, as you can hear. And got quite a variety of sort of sizes of bubbles in there. When you've got a lot of big bubbles and small bubbles all kind of together, and it sort of foams up that way with a variety of sort of different sized bubbles. They call that a rocky head. It's called being a rocky. Honestly, I'm not sure what it means in terms of the brewing process or the quality of the beer, but I've heard it said that a rocky head is an indicator of a good beer. Why, I'm not sure, but that's what they say. That's what the experts say. So, yeah, on the nose, it is definitely bright and citrusy. It smells like oranges and grapefruits. I wouldn't say it's very sweet smelling. It's not like a pineapple-y kind of scent. It's definitely more on that citrus spectrum. I gave myself a slightly more generous pour for this one than I will for the others, probably because it's a little bit lighter, right? So I should also point out these are, of course, 500 ml cans, or just about. So they are tall, big cans, more than just a single beer, sort of a beer and a half in each of these cans, right? So I'm not going to be having the whole can of each. I'll put a seal on them and save it for later, tomorrow or the next day. Beer will last in the fridge fine if you seal it. Like once it's been opened, you put a seal of some kind on it. It'll last for a couple of days in the fridge. It won't be quite as good as fresh, but it'll certainly still be drinkable. Okay. Well, cheers. What should our first toast be to? Of course, to our patrons and channel members. Once again, thank you for convincing me to drink some beer on camera. Cheers. Really pleasant, very drinkable, definitely hop forward. It has that citrusy hoppiness. It's very, very bright hoppiness. So it's got a bit of bitterness, but only a little bit. It recedes quite rapidly. It's not like a lingering bitterness. It's not got a resinous or kind of like green flavor. It's crisp, it's bright, it's citrusy. It's very pleasant. Leaves behind some nice lacing on the side of the glass there. And it's pretty fizzy. Like in the sort of medium plus range in terms of the carbonation. But it's got a nice clean mouthfeel. And very, very drinkable. I could definitely crush a few of these cans. Not that I will, mind you. Responsible drinking. But would be a great pairing for, a hot summer day. In terms of like food pairings, that's not my jam. I really actually don't know a lot about pairing food and beer. It's probably something I should learn about. Maybe I should get a book or something. That'd be kind of fun. But at least in terms of climate and weather, definitely a good warm day kind of beer. Definitely has that feel about it. I'm really glad that Vancouver Island Brewing seems to be back on track. Historically, they did make some of my favorite beers, like back when I was in my undergrad years, which is a long time ago now, you guys. It's like, oh, I don't know, like 15 years ago, I'll say. I drank a lot of Piper's Pale Ale from these guys. It's a classic. Herman's, which is it's a dark lager from them as well. It's another one of their staples and has been for many years. These guys also have a pretty amazing, very dark, sweet, heavy beer. They call it an ice bock, B-O-C-K. I don't know a lot about what goes into it or how it's made, but I think it's like super chilled somehow in the brewing process. But it's like a special version of their Hermans. They call it the Hermanator because it's very strong, but it's exceptionally good. It's like a limited release kind of thing. I've not had it for some years, but I did actually go to a brewery tour with these guys, and did a tasting flight and all that. Got to see their setup where they were, brewing, of course, but also recycling bottles for like washing and sterilizing them and reusing them, labeling them, and I don't think they do bottles anymore, or not much anyway. Seems like everyone has moved to cans. And it makes me a little bit sad because, there's something nice, almost like stately about a big bottle. Like it feels special somehow. When the breweries around here were using bottles more, they would use these big, tall bottles, like 700 and something mils a piece, I think. They call them bombers. And it was kind of like two regular sized bottles in one, basically. And, on one hand, it was a lot of beer in one bottle, especially if it was like a heavier brew, a more alcoholic beer. And sometimes I couldn't really, finish it all or didn't want to. So that was like a little bit impractical, I guess. But I really like popping the top off a bottle. I like the snap hiss. And bottles make nice sounds too when they pour. You get that kind of sound, like glugging that you don't really get with a can. I think bottles sound nicer to tap on as well. Not that this is awful or anything, but it's just not quite as nice. Anyway, there are still a few holdouts. I think Hoyne Brewing, which is one of the bigger breweries here in town. It's been around for a while. Makes some good stuff. They do bottles still, those bombers. As does Phillips, which is a similar kind of, well-established brewery that's been around for a long time in town and makes some really good, iconic stuff. I do actually have a bottle of Phillips Amnesiac double IPA in my fridge. And I thought about using it for this video, but I wanted brews that I had not tried before. And I've definitely had that one before. So I opted for some different stuff. I think this one, the Mystic Haze, I think it came out last year, like 2022, I believe is when they debuted it. And this is my first time trying it, so I like it. It's good. I would give it a 4 out of 5 in its bracket, which is, you know, a very sessionable, crisp, bright, citrusy pale ale. It's a good one of those. It's not like blowing me away, but it's very pleasant. And I could definitely see myself enjoying, yeah, like I said, a couple of these. You can see all that. The sudsiness, the head left behind, they call that lacing, as it sort of, well, maybe it's past the lacing point, but sometimes you get it where it sort of looks like almost like an interconnected web of froth as it kind of recedes down the side of the glass. But I should also make it abundantly clear, I'm not a beer expert. I am not a brewer at all. I've never brewed. Not even doing like home brew or you brew stuff. I'd like to try one day, but mostly I am just a fan of craft beer. I like drinking beer, and I've learned a few things about like beer styles and tasting and that kind of stuff over the years, but not a lot, and I'm really no expert, so if I say something that sounds silly, perhaps you are a beer expert or a brewer, feel free to correct me down in the comments. Pretty good. Very enjoyable. Well, all right then. So, that was a nice light starter, but we're going from 0 to 100. Well, not really, but this is definitely stronger, and it's a hell of a design. So our beer number 2 tonight, which I'm going to once again just wipe off on this very comfortable, soft, absorbent shirt from this video's sponsor, INTOTHEAM. Beer number 2 is from my favorite brewery here in Victoria. And those of you who come to my Twitch streams might already know who that is. They are Driftwood Brewery. Driftwood Brewery. And they make some of the most flavorful, awesome beers to come out of this part of the world. Also, they have some of the most beautiful cans. As I started off this video saying, sometimes I do make my choices based on aesthetics. But this one was an easy choice because not only does it look awesome, but I'm very certain it's going to taste amazing too. Driftwood makes one of the more famous IPAs from this part of the world. It's known as Fat Tug. Fat Tug. Before you get the wrong idea, it's named after tugboats. Tugboats. So, but that's not this. This is Deoris. Deoris. And it is a wheat sour, a barrel-aged wheat sour. Now, I'm not, this is going to sound bad, but I'm not actually sure if I've had this before. And I say that because it's actually, I know that they did brew this once before, but it was quite some time ago. I think it was maybe 5 years ago or something like that, maybe more. They did a run of this stuff, and you know, it's going to be a little different each time because of their process. And I believe that this particular batch, if their website is to be believed anyway, was aged for 3.5 years in oak Chardonnay barrels. Oak Chardonnay barrels. 3.5 years. That is a long aging process for a beer, you guys. And certainly the wine barrels are going to give it a lot of character. And then it was soured with the addition of a variety of microbes. So lactobacillus, I guess, is usually what they use for souring. Doesn't say on here. Just assorted microbiota. And it started its life, of course, as a wheat beer. So it's been through a lot of permutations. There's some very interesting stuff going on here. Does that sound? Not that that has anything to do with the aging, but so I expect this to be complex. And like I said, I don't recall if I might have had this some years back, but I don't think I ever did, weirdly, because I do like these guys a lot. But I remember being aware of this stuff, but I don't think I ever actually had any. But let's take another moment to appreciate the beautiful art on this can. It is gorgeous. Look at this. We've got this incredible raptor bird. I think it might be a hawk, maybe a Cooper's hawk or a red tail. I'm not quite sure. I'm actually not really a bird guy, but it's definitely a bird of prey. That much I can tell. And some really lovely details. Look at that. There's a geometric shape in the eye. The iconic art on the Driftwood cans and bottles. Driftwood is another one of those breweries that actually still does do bottles for some of their beers. The iconic art is done by a graphic design firm here on Vancouver Island called Hired Guns. Hired Guns Creative. And, pardon me. I believe they got their start with Driftwood, doing the designs for Driftwood. I could be wrong about that, but that's the first place I saw their art. Now they actually do designs for a whole bunch of different breweries and distilleries and labels for alcoholic drinks. Basically, that's their niche. But their Driftwood stuff is always iconic and really, really beautiful. This can has a little bit of extra specialness to it because they've got a black can and that on the top as well. So it's got this really unique aesthetic. Okay. We talked about it enough? No, not yet, because we actually have some beer lore to read here, as I like to call it. And these guys really do beer lore. The Driftwood guys really like to have dramatic little excerpts here. And this one is no different. It says here, if in a golden field a wanderer should appear as from the air, beware. Harvest is upon, the sickle raised, and through the haze his sour leer. As quickly as the winged pilgrim travels near from nowhere, shall your spirit melt into thin, thin air. Ooh, dramatic reading. I don't know if that's an excerpt from something or if was just written for this beer can. I'm not sure, but it's good. Ingredients include water, barley malt, raw wheat, hops, and assorted microbiota. This is an unfiltered beer, and it is fodder aged. Fodder aged. And it is 7%. 7%. So it's a definite step up from the Mystic Haze at 4.5%. So I'm expecting something very complex with some Chardonnay notes, some, tannic notes from the oak, probably. And it's a sour, so probably something a little tangy or tart. Let's find out. Here we go. You can definitely smell that aging. You can definitely tell it's in wine barrels. All right, our second glass, nice and clean. No cross-contamination here. Let's pour it out. So it's a bit fruity, but it's definitely like almost appley, but also maybe some darker fruits, like a little plummy. But the beer itself actually pours remarkably light. I expected something darker, truth be told, based on the can, I guess. But this is a clear golden pour. It's almost like a fiery golden. It's quite pretty. And for being unfiltered, it's got remarkable clarity. You can definitely smell that barrel aging. It's got that oakiness, that winey character. And you might have also noticed that the head, the froth, recedes very quickly. It's already gone. And there's not a whole lot of carbonation going on either. That could be due to the aging, I'm not sure. But the rapid dissipation of the froth is something that I always see with sours. And I'm not sure what the reason behind that is. And a member of our channel community here actually did explain it to me once. Shout out to Jarrett, who is a beer chemist, basically. He explained it to me once in the chat on Twitch, but I've gone and forgotten what the reasoning is. I think it was something to do with maybe the sugar is getting digested somehow. I'm not quite sure. And then affecting, I guess, the, viscosity, maybe. I'm just making stuff up now. I don't really know. If you know, please feel free to let me know down below. Jarrett, if you're watching, help me. Leave a comment. Anyway, I could probably look it up, but the point is, I've noticed that every sour I've had pretty much has always just done that. The head does not stick around. Headless. I said I was going to give myself a slightly more reserved pour for this one. I guess I did. It's a little bit less than the last pour. It's still only about half the can, so. All right. Well, let's try it out. Who are we toasting this time, friends? How about this video's sponsor, Into the AM, they of the Elevated Everyday Apparel, who, let's be real, they have been amazing supporters of this channel and my content and this community, really, for a long time. They have sponsored a ton of videos here. They clearly like what we do here, what we have. And you guys clearly like them too, or else they wouldn't keep coming back. So Thank you to Into the AM for their continued patronage. Thank you to you guys for your continued patronage of Into the AM. And I hope you continue to love the t-shirts and clothes that they put out the same way I do, because it's rad. They're rad, seriously. If you've never been over there, check it out. Take a look at their designs. Get yourself some really reasonably priced, very good quality, awesome looking stuff to wear. All right, cheers into the AM. Wow, okay. So definitely it's kind of fruity. That appleiness, that wasn't me just imagining things. It definitely has some of that to it. It definitely has a tart finish. It doesn't really taste like a wheat ale. Like you would not know this is brewed with wheat. It doesn't taste anything like a wheat beer. But it does taste very good. Some like apples and pear, maybe. It's got a bit of pearishness to it. Yeah, definitely. It's quite pleasant. It's not quite as like complex or nuanced as I thought it might be, given its aging in those oak barrels. It does have. There's no tannic astringency or anything like that, but there's a bitterness. There's a mild bitterness that lingers. Pardon me. No hoppiness whatsoever. And no booziness either. 7% is like kind of at that threshold where some beers, it's kind of a funny thing. Some beers betray their alcohol content more readily than others, if that makes sense. Sometimes you'll have like an 8% and you'll feel that booziness in the back of the palate, that a bit of that warmth, but other times you won't in the slightest. 7% is kind of at that threshold. You're probably not going to notice anything, but yeah, certainly this one hides it well. It's got a very clean mouthfeel. It's got that tartness really helps with the mouthfeel. And it's actually more carbonated than it looks. Like it really looks almost flat, doesn't it? But it's got a pleasing carbonation, like a medium kind of carbonation. Not quite as fizzy as the first one, I'd say. Sometimes I can find that barrel-aged beers are a little bit much for me. Like it really depends on the beer, but sometimes it's like, whoa, they can be very complex. There can be like a lot of flavor coming from that aging process, whatever way they're aged. Oftentimes I honestly find the bourbon barrel aged beers to be like a little too much for me. But not the case with this one. Like this is really pleasant. And like kind of surprisingly straightforward for what it's been through. Like a wheat beer, barrel aged for 3.5 years in Chardonnay barrels, and then soured. And I'm not saying that in a way like I'm not disappointed or anything. It's actually kind of a pleasant surprise. Definitely, like, yeah, orchard fruit vibes though. And then that tart finish. It's surprisingly sessionable in a sense. Like it's not like you wouldn't just like, crush it like you would this stuff, but it's not heavy on the palate. It's quite pleasant. Also, the alcohol content's going to get to you quite a bit quicker. It's almost not quite twice, but 1.5 times. So I should talk about the beer, but actually I kind of want to talk about Diablo 4. The weekend that I'm recording this, and the weekend this is coming out, is the open beta weekend for Diablo 4. Many of you might know, some of you might know, whatever. I'm a big fan of the Diablo games. Have been for a very long time, since Diablo 1 back in the 90s. That was my first time playing the series. And every new Diablo game is a big event for me, because we don't get that many of them. The series has been around since 1996, and we're only on to number 4 this year. So, but in my opinion, Diablo 2 is one of the best games of all time. I really enjoyed Diablo 2 Remastered, which released 2 years ago now. Very, very good. And they really, really nailed, the idea of recapturing the essence of that game and just creating what you remembered, bringing that back in a beautiful new package. And of course, Diablo 3 was all right. It ended up in a very good place, but it was a long time to get there. It didn't launch in a great state, but it did end up in a pretty good spot after the Reaper of Souls expansion. And I sunk a fair few hours into running Greater Rifts, trying to push my Greater Rift level and stuff. But that was quite a few years ago. Diablo 3 came out in 2012. May 2012. So this year, 2023, of course, will mark the release of Diablo 4, slated for June 6th. So it's 11 years, a little over, since we last had a mainline Diablo game. We had Diablo Immortal, a mobile game, like last year. We don't talk about Diablo Immortal. I did play it. The actual combat was like not a bad translation of Diablo to mobile. Like it was very much Diablo 3, but on a phone. But the rest of everything around it, the structure of that game, the grindiness, the free-to-play trappings, not good. Not good at all. So I just played through the main story. I played a little past, I guess, but eventually I just burnt out. I was like, whatever, this is not worth my time. Diablo 4, however, I played in the early access beta last weekend, which you get for pre-ordering the game or buying sandwiches at KFC, I guess. There's some kind of promotion. Anyway, it was a limited access beta last weekend, and it's good. It's good. Despite, everything stacked against it, Diablo 4 is looking pretty good, and I'm very pleased by that. It's not perfect. I have some gripes, but I have a little bit of time, like 2 months, to make some changes, and it's going to be a live service game, so I'm sure changes will continue to be made after launch and through the life of the game. but I already feel like it's in a better place than Diablo 3 was back at its launch. So I'm just enjoying this. We've got one more after this. It's going to be a long video, but these beer tasting videos always end up kind of rambly, you know. But that's the point, right? I'm just enjoying a brew, chatting with you guys, hanging out. I tell you, I've had a long week, so I've been looking forward to recording this. This is my reward for getting through a week of 12 plus hour days on my main job, let alone, never mind the channel stuff. Okay. So, we'll talk more about Diablo 4 in a moment, but let's stay on topic here. Our number 3 beer. This one is also condensation-y. So give me 1 second. I really should have brought some paper towel or a rag or something. But this last one, I wanted to finish on a sweet note because we have a hoppy beer, a sour beer. I wanted something dark and sweet. So this one, aesthetically, not quite as exciting as the others, but it sounds delicious. My number 3 beer, pardon me, this is the challenge with doing a beer tasting video. There's a lot of carbonation going on. My number 3 beer is the Midnight Train Milk Chocolate Coconut Stout from Boombox, I think is the brewery. Boombox Brewing. Yeah, Boombox Brewing. That's what the little boombox down there is about. But we've got the Midnight Train vibes going on with that light coming down the tracks. It makes it look like we're about to get hit by the Midnight Train. Hopefully we don't get hit by this beer too hard, but it's no lightweight. First of all, there's a lot of dessert flavors going on there. Milk, chocolate, coconut, stout. So a stout is going to be a dark, full-bodied, smooth mouthfeel, roasty kind of beer. And then this one evidently has milk chocolate and coconut added to it, which is going to be a lot. This is going to be decadent. But I wanted to finish on that kind of note, you know. And it's no slouch in the alcohol department. It is 8%, I believe. Oh, 8.8%. Check it out. Almost 9%. So we've definitely leveled up each beer here. 4.5, 7, 8.8. Of all of them, I think this one will probably have the strongest flavors. Although I will say that De Oris did have a lot of flavor going on. A lot of that kind of fruitiness. And when I say fruitiness, you know, well, I already kind of made it clear, but a very different fruitiness than the pale ale. This is like bright citrus. This is like apples and pears, you know. Totally different. This will be totally different yet again. Boombox Brewing, I'm not quite sure where they are situated. I think they're in the Lower Mainland, Vancouver area, but... Oh, interesting. Okay, so these guys actually, they brew their beer at a different brewery, Parallel 49 Brewery, which is located in Vancouver. So it looks like maybe they rent space or time at Parallel 49's facilities, but the beers are brewed and designed by someone else at Boombox, I guess. I think I've had 1 or 2 of their brews before, but I can't remember what they were. But the name sounds familiar, so I think I have. Anyway, I've certainly never had this before. And it sounds like it's going to be dark and sweet and smooth. That's what I'm expecting here. These guys do not have any beer lore for me to read to you, but we can read off the ingredients. Water, malt, hops, yeast, coconut, chocolate, oats, which will add to the smoothness, lactose, which will add to the smoothness, coffee, which will give it some coffee flavor, some roastiness as well, and vanilla. So that sounds nice, doesn't it? Let's crack it open. Okay. Oh, well, there's a lot of coffee in there. I can definitely smell the coffee. You guys, it's like the middle of the night right now because I worked a long day. And I wasn't planning to drink like a coffee stout because the caffeine might keep me up. But that appears to be what we have here. It doesn't say coffee on here. I mean, it says it on the ingredients, but it's a milk chocolate coconut stout. It doesn't talk about coffee. But you know what? That's okay. It smells really good, though. All right. Let's try it out. You ready for the pour? Here we go. Okay. I was ready to keep pouring out more, but I really shouldn't because of the alcohol and the caffeine. You can see it's got a pretty rapidly receding head, actually. It's just got a little bit left on the sides of the glass there. It pours a kind of, well, the head is off-white, almost a parchmenty kind of color. The beer itself pours a black, a little bit of brown. You probably can't tell. If I had a backlight, you could see. But, yeah, it's got a slightly molassesy kind of color to it. And, it smells great. It's got a chocolatiness and a roastiness, a very roasty maltiness to it. But then that coffee, it smells like a coffee crisp bar, which, if you're not Canadian, you may never have had. We have a delicious candy bar here called Coffee Crisp. And it's like that, but richer. It smells amazing, I'm not going to lie. A little bit of vanilla. A little bit of caramel. Yeah, it smells really good. All right, I'm done sniffing this. Let's taste it. Wait, who are we toasting? We have one more toast left to go. You know who we're toasting? We're toasting you. Whoever you are, wherever you are. I appreciate you being here, being a part of this channel, this community, even just being here watching this video. If it's your first time, welcome. If it's your not first time, thank you for being a part of all this. I appreciate you guys so much. Cheers to you. Wow. That is good. That is very sweet, very smooth. It's definitely got the coconut is not super aggressive. It's there, but it's not super aggressive. It's very chocolatey. you can't taste the coconut, but it's nicely balanced. And the coffee just kind of rounds it all out, you know. It's quite sweet. It's got quite a toasty finish. Just hints of vanilla on the palate, but it's not a dominant flavor. And man, I can't get over the smell of this. Like, it tastes really good, but just the whole package is like, oh, it's very good. It's not actually got as heavy or like sticky a mouthfeel as some stouts do. Sometimes a stout can be a lot. Like I've had some where it feels like you're chewing on it almost, you know. It feels like a meal in a glass. It has a smooth mouthfeel, but it's not like super sticky, super viscous, you know. The lactose and the oats are no doubt adding to the smoothness. But wow, very, very good. 5 out of 5. I don't think I rated De Oris. 4.5 out of 5. But this is fantastic. A really excellent, decadent dessert beer, and a really nice way to finish off this video. I was talking a bit about Diablo 4 and my thoughts on it. I really like what they've done aesthetically. It is dark, like this beer. Very much a callback to Diablo 2 in terms of the aesthetics. And that was what I wanted. I wasn't like a hater of what they did with Diablo 3's graphics, but it was certainly a departure. I very much prefer the Diablo 2 look. And I said they've done a great job of recapturing that darkness with Diablo 4, from what we've seen so far at least. And I've watched some of their dev diaries and stuff, like they know what they're doing and what they're shooting for and what people want, so. And of course that's just, you know, one small aspect of the game. The combat, I would say it is more in the Diablo 3 style than the Diablo 2 style, but it does walk a line somewhere in between the two. And it definitely has like a weightiness, like a punchiness to it, and a deliberate-ishness that is more akin to Diablo 2 than 3. Diablo 3 was very like just huge amounts of damage, huge hordes of enemies. Granted, that was endgame. I guess it didn't start off that way, but it felt like you were a superhero just wrecking everything. Like, it was very much that power fantasy, which was fun in its own way. Granted, the Diablo 4 beta is only the first 25 levels, so by the end of it, by the time you're like Paragon level 100 or whatever they have, maybe it'll feel more like D3, but the cooldowns, the just design of the skills feels just a bit punchier, a bit weightier, and a bit more subdued and slower than Diablo 3, which I think is a positive change. Diablo 2 was definitely a slower paced kind of game. I mean, it got pretty fast too at max level, but not like Diablo 3. And I think the sound design actually does a lot for the feeling of weight in the skills in Diablo 4. And so overall, I've actually really enjoyed the combat. That said, I've only played 2 classes. I've played a barbarian for a little bit, and I've played a sorcerer. I've been playing an ice sorcerer, which, as I understand it, is actually maybe a little bit OP right now. It's going to get nerfed before release, so it feels good to me. But maybe it's a little breezier than intended. I actually did a video last weekend, by the way, in case anyone's interested. You can check it out on the channel here. It's not a gameplay, like combat gameplay video. It's just wandering around in some of the environments of Diablo 4, but you can definitely check it out and see if the game looks good to you. There are other elements that I'm a little less thrilled about. I think the itemization feels a bit lacking right now. It's hard to tell if that's because this is just a low-level beta or if it's something more fundamental. But I still think Diablo 2 is the high water mark for itemization in an RPG. Like maybe the best ever. It's just something about, well, there's a lot of things about what they did right in that game. But certainly the itemization was one of them. And I'm not sure about the skill system and progression in Diablo 4 yet. It seems okay off the bat, but it does feel a little bit like they're kind of shunting you down a handful of very specific paths on each class, like specific archetypes. We'll see how that pans out in terms of like theory crafting and build diversity. It's, it's hard to tell how the end game is going to be based on what we've seen so far, but the impressions overall surprisingly positive. This game had a lot stacked against it. It's been in development for a long time, and I wasn't sure that it was going to turn out, but color me pleasantly surprised and quite hopeful for the final release. I'd like to hear about your impressions, though, down in the comments. Let me know if you've been playing the Diablo 4 beta, what your thoughts and experiences are. I'd love to read them. And that, my friends, is beer number 3 finished. So, thank you all so much for coming on by and hanging out with me here for this beer tasting. I hope it was everything that you wanted, especially if you are one of the ones requesting this video for the last while. 3 very different but very excellent beers. I enjoyed them all very much, although I think I like that last one the most. It was a great one to finish on. A huge thank you to our wonderful supporters, our YouTube members and patrons. Again, if you would like a chance to vote in future patrons picks or members choice polls for upcoming months, there are links down below in the video description where you can check out the ways that you can support myself and this content on this channel and get some very cool perks while you're at it. So make sure you click on through, check those out. And a huge thank you to our existing supporters for their generosity. And of course, thank you to INTOTHEAM for their kind support as well and for sponsoring this video. If you guys want some really great, really cheap apparel, check it out down in the video description as well. Use my link to save 10% of your entire order. All right, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. And I look forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now. And hey, remember those awesome supporters that I mentioned earlier? The ones that support this channel so kindly on Patreon and YouTube? The ones that made this video happen by voting for it? Well, here they are. Check them out. Look at all those awesome names of our super generous supporters. And there's one particular tier that gets a special shout out here, a spoken thank you every single video. That is the Fus Ro Da tier. And you too, dear viewer, could get that special shout out if you sign up at the Fus Ro Da tier on Patreon or YouTube. So make sure you check out those links down below in the video description. Although there are, of course, lots of other awesome perks at the other tiers as well. So find the one that works best for you. But right now, I'm going to thank our Fus Ro Da supporters, starting with Ragnar Ragnarsson, Captain or Emperor Vanquisher, Dragoon88, our most recent YouTube sign up, Angel Garcia, The Blacktooth Bob, Drummer Britt, Rango Steele, and the one and only Jake Luffney. Thank you to all of our Fus Ro Da tier supporters for their super kind support of what I do here. But of course, all of our supporters, our patrons and YouTube members, are awesome extra special members of this community who do a lot for giving me some level of freedom and independence from sponsorships and that sort of thing, and allow me to make the kind of content that I like making and that I hope you enjoy watching. So thank you again to all of our supporters here, and I hope you all enjoyed our very first YouTube Members Choice and Patreon Patrons Pick video.